Hi, my name is Injeri Dean. Today I will be interviewing Donna Duncan, the Executive Director of LindaCreedBreastCancer.org. We will be discussing breast cancer, cancer awareness, cancer prevention, and the services that Linda Creed Breast Cancer Foundation has to offer. First, I would like to say that April Records LLC is passionate about cancer prevention because one of our own, April Wiltz, was taken from us because of colon cancer. Our record label is in honor of her memory. What is breast cancer and how is cancer formed in the body?
Breast cancer is obviously cancer that is in the breast. We have good cells and bad cells, and what happens is cancer starts when these bad cells are able to get the typical or normal cells to begin to grow and divide uncontrollably. And they develop tumors or invade the good tissue of the breast. In the breast, we have our milk ducts, our lobes, which hold the milk and fluid, and then fatty tissue. And unfortunately, breast cancer can invade each one of those areas. So there's DCIS, which is ductal carcinoma in situ or invasive ductal cancer. We also have lobular cancer in situ, which means it remains in the lobes, or it can become invasive. And then there is inflammatory breast cancer, which invades the fatty tissue. That is pretty much how cancer develops. If we don't treat cancer, then that cancer is going to continue to grow and to move to other body parts, other organs, which is called metastasis. And in the case of the breast, the common organs that it goes to are the breast and then the bone, brain, lungs, or liver, as well as other body parts. It can go to the ovaries. We're never quite sure where it will go, but they're the most common areas that breast cancer metastasizes to. Breast cancer in other body parts is similar, that it's those bad cells that come about, and then they're able to grow and divide, and as a result of that division, have tumors and invade normal tissue.
What factors cause breast cancer or other forms of cancer?
Well, actually, we don't really know what causes breast cancer per se. We do know that breast cancer is linked to estrogen, and obviously estrogen is what makes women women. So we have a lot of estrogen in our body. Men can also get breast cancer. They too have estrogen in their body, but it's at a much lower percentage. But 1 to 2% of men also can will be diagnosed with breast cancer. So there isn't any one thing, because we don't know what causes breast cancer. We can't say it's point a finger to, if you have this, you're going to get breast cancer. We do know that there are some genes that are involved, and the two genes that have been identified that have the most of a connection to breast cancer are the breast cancer 1 and 2 genes, or BRCA1, BRCA2. Despite finding those two genes, and women who have those genes do have a higher rate of breast cancer, 85% to 90% of the women who get breast cancer do not have the BRCA1 or 2 gene. And that means 85 to 90 women out of 100 women who get diagnosed do not have one of the breast cancer genes. But we cannot point to any one particular thing. What we do know when we look at risk factors is the longer you have active estrogen in your body, the higher your risk is for breast cancer. So that would mean the age you were when you began to menstruate and through the age you are when you go into menopause. So that time period, the longer that is, the higher your risk is. If you've never had children or have children later in life, in your mid-30s, then you have a higher risk for developing breast cancer. We do know that women also tend to gain weight after menopause, and as women gain weight, estrogen likes to hide in fatty tissue. So that's also a role that may be played there. The other, about 80% of the women who get breast cancer are over age 50. We hear a lot about younger women in the news because that's a good thing. It helps people look at what's happening with younger women and some of the issues that they're facing when they get a disease such as breast cancer. But 80%, 80 out of 100 women who get it are over age 50. When you look at if we don't treat cancer, then cancer will metastasize and go to other organs. And when the breast cancer does that, that's when a woman is going to die of that disease. And we have seen, unfortunately, a pretty flat death rate, that we haven't been able to really reduce the death rate, the number of women who die from breast cancer.
What can people do to decrease their chance of obtaining breast cancer or other forms of cancer?
I think what happens is when we look at what keeps us healthy is looking at having a healthy diet, maintaining a good weight, and having exercise. That seems to work for every disease that we know of, pretty much. That if we are healthy, then we have a lower rate of getting breast cancer. But we cannot say, do this and you will not get breast cancer. We do know that if you drink alcohol on a daily basis, that your risk goes up for breast cancer. So healthy diet, exercise, and drinking lower amounts of alcohol are a good thing.
How was LindaCreedBreastCancer.org established into the organization it is today?
Well, Linda Creed was a Philadelphia songwriter, and Linda Creed did a lot of work that was sung by a lot of songs that the Stylistics sang. Betcha My Golly Well, Rubber Band Man, and her most famous was The Greatest Love of All. And unfortunately, Linda was diagnosed at 26 with breast cancer and had a recurrence and then died of breast cancer at the age of 37. That was in 1986. Friends and family felt that it really shouldn't end there, that younger women needed to understand what breast cancer was and what they should do about it, and they created the foundation in 1987. And initially, their first focus was on education. They learned that as they began to do education, that women didn't have access to screening mammograms. In those days, it wasn't covered necessarily free by insurance, which it has been under the Affordable Care Act, but it was not free then. There was always a copay that went with it, and many women couldn't afford their copays. And many women were uninsured. In Pennsylvania, up until the Affordable Care Act, we were at more than 12% uninsured. So it was a real issue for women how to get those services. So the Linda Creed's board got together and said, we need to fix this. So we created a free screening program, and we do that with 10 to 12 area hospitals each year, And the free screening program also includes any follow-up tests, diagnostic mammograms and ultrasounds that a woman may need following that screening mammogram. And then any woman who is symptomatic who calls us, we navigate them through our patient navigation program to identify programs and services that they might qualify for, or they come through us and have diagnostic services to determine if they have a diagnosis of breast cancer. So in addition to that, is really our mammogram screening program is pretty much the cornerstone of what we do.
How did you first get involved with LindaCreedBreastCancer.org?
I have been in nonprofit work my entire grown-up life, and I was running an Easter Seals program in the Lehigh Valley and Berks County area. Wanted to move back to the hometown of Philadelphia, and I was contacted by a headhunter to see if I was interested in working for Linda Creed Breast Cancer. At that point, I had lost my aunt to breast cancer, and my best friend had been diagnosed with breast cancer a few years before that. So, piqued my interest, came in, met with the board, and decided that it was the right place for me. So I've been here for 16 years at this stage.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I totally believe in the mission, the work that we do. We help those women who don't fit anywhere else. They may make a little too much money for government programs, yet they clearly are unable to afford services out of pocket. So we really do help the women that we work with. Those women, many of them are working women. They may work in housekeeping jobs or may work as waitresses or in food service, and a lot work in doctor's offices, yet haven't the insurance to be able to go out and get the services that they may need.
What are some ways that people like you and me can get involved with LindaCreedBreastCancer.org and make a difference?
Well, we fundraise our entire budget every year. So it is something that if we don't fundraise that money, then we don't have the services that we can provide. So helping us raise money is something that is super important to us. We have a lot of special events. There's a lot of people in the community that do special events for us. We will have soccer teams or baseball teams or what have you. The Powder Puff football games. A lot of those folks look at a charity to give money to, and we're always pleased when they choose us. And they usually choose us because people have had a connection with Linda Creed, or they know about us because of the work that we do. We also do one or two large events a year. We have a jazz brunch coming up in November, and that is our mainstay of our fundraising work that we do. So we have annual appeals where we ask people for money. There's University of the Sciences does a phenomenal fundraiser each year for us. So there's a lot of different ways. Chubb Insurance does also a wonderful event for us, and we've been lucky to be the beneficiary for 3 years of that event. So there are a lot of different groups out there that help us raise the money, and we're always looking for volunteers to help with those events. We also use a lot of breast cancer survivors to help us do our education out in the community so that women know and understand, and they get to meet survivors, hear about how they realize they had breast cancer and what treatment they went through and how they can connect to people who are in need to Linda Creed Breast Cancer. So, and at our screenings, we not just do a mammogram, but the doctors in the hospitals volunteer their time to do physical examinations of the women, and we provide education. So there's a lot of work, intensive work with what we do, and we use a lot of volunteers to help us succeed in that work. So people just need to reach out. They can give us a call at 215-564-3700 and say they want to volunteer, and they can help us do that. We do have a website, which is www.lindacreed.org. People can see what we're up to, and of course we're on Facebook as well. So look us up, like us on Facebook, and you'll get to hear about us.
What is the most rewarding part of your job?
I think the most rewarding part that I do is because we are an extremely small staff, it's only myself and a development staff person, is working with women to help them identify services that they need, and hooking women up with those services. When we get thank you, and it's a woman who has been diagnosed with breast cancer, she didn't know she had breast cancer, and if she hadn't come in to get a screening, she would still not know that she had breast cancer. So even though it's very sad that we have women who get diagnosed, the fact that because of that diagnosis, they can go into treatment and have a longer life is what really makes the job all worthwhile.
If you had the power to change anything about the care of cancer patients and how cancer awareness is being taught, how would you do it and why?
I think teaching about breast cancer awareness and breast cancer awareness in particular winds up being a very more personal than one would realize. We find that women really pay attention when it's smaller groups than when it's a larger group. They like to be able to ask questions. They may feel uncomfortable in larger groups asking some of those questions. So smaller groups do seem to work better for many women. And the fact that we tend to use survivors to be part of that education is really important, because I think folks connect with those survivors. It's not a doctor up there telling you what you should do, or it's not Donna, the social worker, telling you what you should do. It is Mary S., who's had breast cancer twice and lost a sister to breast cancer, who's up there explaining why it's so important. So I think using survivors is really something that can really bolster the education. I think what I would really wish is for healthcare to really be available to everyone. I'd love to put Linda Creed out of business, or at least out of the free mammogram business, because it is so important to allow people to have access to health care. And we hear constantly about Obamacare and how it's a horrible program. It has not been horrible to the folks that we have worked with who have been fortunate to get Obamacare. And we hear constantly that it's too costly and that insurance companies don't like it. But we've already heard how Aetna was sued because they lied about what they had done. So I think it's important for us to really take a lot of the information we hear with a grain of salt and realize that uninsured rate was cut in half in Pennsylvania when the Affordable Care Act came about. It's not perfect. Nothing is. It's not cheap. Nothing is. But it's provided services to so many women who didn't have access before. So access to health care is extremely important if we're going to battle breast cancer.
Do you have any advice for people who want to get into cancer research or help individuals dealing with cancer?
Cancer research is I can't say how important it is, because it is so important. And I know in breast cancer, with National Breast Cancer Coalition, a board, the advocacy board that we are part of, we really want to focus on finding a prophylactic vaccine so that women wouldn't get breast cancer, similar to the vaccine that they've put together for the HPV virus, which will reduce the head and neck cancers as well as reducing cervical cancer. It's not 100%, but it would certainly lower significantly the rates of women who would get breast cancer. And the need to focus on metastasis, what causes that metastasis, and how we can stop that metastasis. Because when it moves to other organs, that's when we lose control of cancer. And so many new things that are coming about, immunotherapy and what have you, is a result of that research. And trying to think out of the box for research is really important. And having a fund, like the Department of Defense Breast Cancer Research Program, is really a phenomenal program that allows people to think out of the box. It's not, people don't get tons of money, and they're not most are not multi-year grants. So it allows people to try ideas. And if those ideas work, they can pan out and be something really terrific. When we look at metastasis, almost all of the research in the past has been focused on medications and chemos. And what can we give somebody to keep that metastasis under control? And wouldn't it be phenomenal if we could stop the metastasis before it happened? And I think that researchers are really, it's a tough job. Not everybody says thank you as they should, because more research fails than succeeds. But without those failures, we would not have success, because you have to know what doesn't work to keep going at it to find something that works. So it's really a difficult job, and researchers need to be recognized that we know that they do really hard work. And when they have a success, it's because of thousands of other researchers that have not had success. That is why that success happens.
Thank you so much for sitting down with me today. My name is Jerry Dean from April Records LLC, and I would like to thank Donna Duncan and LindaCreedBreastCancer.org for having me. Thank you so much.
Oh, and thank you very much for inviting us. I really appreciate it.